Hello and welcome to my review of the Adeptus Custodes Vexilus Praetor in Allarus Terminator Armour. Bit of a mouthful. You can build this model out of the Custodian Allarus Terminator set, which will cost you £30. There are parts in here to make one of these guys. The only big main difference really is just the Custodes Vexilus, which he's got there. Likewise, you can make the Vexilus Praetor using the in the Warden set. So you can't buy this model separately. I can sort of see why Games Workshop have done this, because typically you'd have one kind of banner bearer, but in these Custodes sets you can create these banner bearers in the sets themselves, which I think would save you money in the long run, buying the sets and having one or two models sort of left over, given the fact that the squad sizes are 3, compared to if they just had them separately for £22.50. I think this is a sort of better way of doing it, even though you're not going to get as unique models as if they did have them separately, like, you know, Death Guard and things like that. Anyway, let's have a look at the model itself. So it's similar to a normal Allarus Terminator. Well, it's probably exactly the same actually, look, size-wise and things, except for it's got this massive Vexilla. And when I mean massive, it's actually similar sort of height. It's probably a little bit thinner, which is quite odd. It's got a sharp point to it, but compared to the normal Custodian Guard one that you get in the set, it doesn't have that point on the top, and the wings aren't as thick. It doesn't have as many chains or scrolls, but it does have a load of curtain ropes. That's what I'm calling them. And it doesn't have these things either. So impressive wise, I'm not sure. They've gone for a thinner look to it. I don't necessarily think it's got more detail, but that's what they've gone for. Obviously I would have preferred them to have the thicker Aquila on or Vexilla on the Allarus Terminators, but I thought it was a decent sort of comparison to make, that, you know, your Custodian Guard ones are thicker and bigger, and I suppose more impressive really. Not always the case though, is it, guys? Anyway, like the other Allarus Terminators, this one went together very well. Unfortunately can't pose the legs at all, or the hips, or, you know, even move the torso around. It's pretty bad. But you can move the arms slightly up or down. You've got free movement of the head. Shoulder pauldrons and stuff go together. It's almost like a monopose model pretty much. You've got the Misericordia there and the Ballistics grenade launcher. So yeah, what I'll do now is just show you some size comparisons. So next to a thick Terminator, a thick Custodes Terminator, this Aquilin one, and then when I first saw them, I didn't ever think that they'd be thicker at all, or taller. The Aquilin are much bigger and taller and thicker, and obviously have their 4+ invulnerable save, because it's kind of like the Cataphracti armour. I will say that the Misericordias have definitely increased in size over 10,000 years though. That one is quite impressive. So that just goes to show you, next to an Aquilin Terminator Custodian, next to a normal Custodian Guard, obviously we've just seen that. They're similar height. Obviously the plumage and stuff is kind of the same height really. They're just thicker than the normal Custodian Guard. Next to Trajan Valoris, obviously he's taller, fair bit taller actually, with his iron halo thing. So there you go. And then next to a couple more Imperial models, so show you just like a Terminator, normal Terminator. So yeah, taller than one of those. And a normal Space Marine, kind of like I said before, take your son to work day kind of thing, you know, follow me, yeah. And then a Primaris is obviously a fair bit taller, and probably the same height, if not a little bit shorter. But I hope those size comparisons help in some way. I just wanted to show him next to a Custodian Guard Dreadnought. They work quite well. Yeah, not as well as the Aquilin ones, because of the armour plates and things. They share that aesthetic. But if you wanted to go for one of these Dreadnoughts to go with your Allarus, it's possible. It is possible. you know, they do share enough characteristics for it to work, but there you go. Okay, so this is my part of the review where I will talk to you about all the rules for this unit. You'll find this model in your elite section, which is heavily contested in your new Custodian Guard Codex. It's a power level points cost of a 7. Compare that to the 6 of the normal Vexilus Praetor. Matched play points, competitive play points, a bit tricky to sort of work out, but essentially he's 80 points for just him, and then you've got to buy the Ballistics grenade launcher, which is free, the Misericordia, which is 4, and then you've got to pick one of the 3 Vexillas. A Defensor, which is 20, so that's 100 points, a Vexilla Imperius, which is 50, so that's 130 points, or a Vexilla Magnifica, which is 30 points, that's 110 points. So it's going to cost you 100 plus points just for this model. Let me talk to you about the stat line. So the movement is 6 inches, weapon skills 2+, ballistic skill 2+, strength 5, toughness 5, 6 wounds, 4 attacks, leadership 9, and save of 2+. So the same stat line as the normal Allarus Custodians, except he's got 6 wounds instead of the normal 4. Obviously the only ranged weapon he's got now, because he's traded in his Guardian Spear or Castellanax, is the Ballistics Grenade Launcher, which is a range 12-inch weapon, assault D3, strength 4, AP -3, and a damage of 1, and his Misericordia. You can make an additional 1 attack with the weapon, which is strength user, AP -2 and damage 1. Abilities, Aegis of the Emperor, so he gets his 2+ normal and a 5+ invulnerable, even though he's clad in Terminator armour, hence why he's got the 6 wounds instead of the normal 3. From Golden Light, so again he can teleport in using the God Strike pattern Teleportarium array instead of placing him on the battlefield, and at the end of any of your movement phases the model can teleport in the battle, and you set him up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches away from enemy models. Now, the Custodes Vexilus, this is the reason why you'd get this model, or you'd make this model for your Custodian Guard army. You can re-roll failed morale tests for friendly Imperium infantry and biker units within 6 inches of this model. In addition, when you add this model to your army, choose one of the following Vexillas for this model to carry. So already you're re-rolling failed morale tests. You're not going to be doing it that much, because leadership is pretty much 9 for the whole army. However, these are the 3 Vexilla. So Vexilla Imperius, which is the most expensive one. It would have been nice if they had a bit of continuity and put it in the same order as it's listed in the point section. They put it in a very strange order. Personally, I would have put the lowest first, so I would have put Defensor, then Magnifica, then Imperius, and mirror that in the point section, but they put it in an odd order and they haven't mirrored it, which sounds like I'm nitpicking, and yeah, I probably am. But anyway, the Imperius. That is the most expensive Vexilla you can get, and it means that Adeptus Custodes models, other than vehicles, add 1 to their attacks characteristics whilst their unit is within 6 inches of any friendly Vexilus Praetors with this Vexilla. That's pretty cool. You're getting an extra attack. You put him next to the Allarus Custodians or the Wardens. Each Warden or Allarus is getting 5 attacks. Put him next to a Shield Captain, getting 6 attacks. So you're buffing a lot of your army to have 5 or 6 attacks there. So that's a good Vexilla. The Vexilla Defensor, which is the cheapest one. Imperium infantry units have a 5+ invulnerable save against ranged weapons whilst they are wholly within 9 inches of any friendly Vexilus Praetors with this Vexilla. That's pretty cool. It's the cheapest one, but it's giving Imperium units a 5+ invulnerable save. It's basically giving them Aegis of the Emperor, let's face it. It's giving them a 5+ invulnerable save, only against ranged weaponry. So it's a little bit of like a force field kind of thing, but they have to be wholly within 9 inches. That's a good bubble though. You know, when you draw a straight line across this model, 18 inches, you know, 9 inches from the model one way and 9 inches to the other, 18 inches is a big bubble. And finally, the one that's in between at 30 points, the Vexilla Magnifica, your opponent must subtract 1 from hit rolls in the shooting phase for attacks that target Adeptus Custodes units within 6 inches of any friendly Vexilus Praetors with this Vexilla. That's a decent one too. It's in between both of those, but before the battle, it would really help to know who you're going up against. If you're going up against a long-ranged specific army, then the Magnifica is going to be brilliant because they're having to subtract 1 from the hit rolls. Likewise, giving them the invulnerable save, a 5+ is good for those. And if you wanted to play offensively against something that's long range but crap in assault, you can give them more attacks. If you're going up against a close combat army, the +1 attacks is also decent too. So it really gives you a nice piece of war gear that can definitely buff your force and your unit around the Vexilus. Definitely worth taking one of these in any Custodian army. It's really either going to help their offensive abilities, their defensive abilities, and their resilience with the 5+ invulnerable save. Unless your whole force is Custodian Guard, and then there's not really much point of getting that 5+ invulnerable save against shooting weapons, because all Custodian Guard do have a 5+ already. So that's a good one if your other force is like Imperium Infantry. Personally, for me, if it was my army, I'd pretty much go for the most expensive one, the Imperius, adding that extra attack to all of your units within the 6 inches. The subtracting 1 from hit rolls is good if you don't put them in a Land Raider or whatever. So that has its benefits too, but the +1 attacks could be horrific. They're not a shooting army, Custodian Guard. They do have some ranged weaponry, but they're mainly up close and personal, teleporting in and wreaking havoc in close combat. How does it compare to a normal Vexilus Praetor? Well, it costs more power points, but he does have 6 wounds instead of the 5, but that's pretty much it for the stat line. However, you can give the normal Vexilus Praetor a Storm Shield. So give him a Storm Shield, you forgo the grenade launcher, you get the Storm Shield, and then at least he's got a 2+ normal and a 3+ invulnerable. And that might be the way to go. So you could have him as a Vexilus and still get the benefits of all the buffing, but you're not going to be able to teleport, and you don't have the grenade launcher. But you do have a bit more survivability in that 3+ invulnerable instead of the 5+ invulnerable. And that's all I really wanted to say about the Vexilus Praetor in Allarus Terminator Armour. Great little unit, lots of detail, great buff to your whole army and even your other factions that you want to include in the army as well. Good unit to teleport in with the rest of your Allarus Terminators. Obviously isn't going to be amazing in close combat, but is going to be survivable, and you know the main reason you get him again is to buff all your other Custodian Guard around him. Anyway, what do you guys think? Please do put it in the comments below as always. Thank you very much for watching today. Thank you for joining me. The Emperor protects.